Would just like to point out that I made a quick costume change. It's getting a little cold in here. Anyway, you should notice that I am wearing my Fleming Well Drilling shirt. And on that note, we are going to continue with pages 11 through 15 of Groundwater Quality Control. I hope you're having fun. I am. All right, our 325.1610, Adoption of Standards and Specifications. Rule 110.1. These rules refer to the following standards and specifications of nationally recognized organizations or associations which were in effect on October 1st, 1993 and are adopted by reference in these rules. A. The following standards of the American Society for Testing and Materials, which are available at a cost as of the time of adoption of these rules, of $12 each from the American Society for Testing and Materials, ACTM, 1916 Race Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103. We should take a road trip. All right. 1. ASTM Specification A 5390B. Standard specification for pipe, steel, black, and hot dipped, zinc coated, welded, and seamless. 2. ASTM Specification A 106-91. Standard specification for seamless carbon steel pipe for high temperature service. 3. ASTM Specification A 589-89A. Standard specification for seamless and welded carbon steel water well pipe. 4. ASTM Specification F 480-90. Standard specification for thermoplastic water well casing pipe and couplings made in standard dimension ratios, SDR. 5. ASTM Specification D 1785-91. Standard specification for polyvinyl chloride PVC plastic pipe schedules 40, 80, and 120. 6. ASTM Specification D 2239-89. Standard specification for polyethylene PE plastic pipe SIDR-PR based on controlled inside diameter. 7. ASTM Specification D 2241-89. Standard specification for polyvinyl chloride PVC pressure rated pipe SDR series. 8. ASTM Specification D 2662-89. Standard specification for polybutylene PB plastic pipe uncontrolled inside diameter. 9. ASTM Specification D 2666-89. Standard specification for polybutylene PB plastic tubing. 10. ASTM Specification D 2737-89. Standard specification for polyethylene PE plastic tubing. 11. ASTM Specification C 150-89. Standard specification for Portland cement. B. American Petroleum Institute, API, Specification 5L 1990. Specification for line pipe, which is available at a cost as of the time of adoption of these rules of $8 each, and the API Specification for Materials and Testing for Well Cements, API Specification 10 1990, which is available at a cost as of the time of adoption of these rules of $12 each. Both specifications may be obtained for the American Petroleum Institute, 1220 L Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20005. C. American National Standards Institute, ANSI, National Sanitation Foundation, NSF, Standard Number 60 for Drinking Water Treatment Chemicals, Health Effects, 1988, and ANSI-NSF, Standard Number 61 for Drinking Water System Component, Health Effects, 1990, and ANSI-NSF, Standard number 14 for plastic piping components and related materials, 1989, which are available at a cost as of the time of adoption of these rules of $45 each from the National Sanitation Foundation, NSF, 3475 Plymouth Road, P.O. Box 1468, Ann Arbor, Michigan 48106. And 2. The standards and specifications adopted by reference in Sub-Rule 1 of this rule are available for inspection and purchase at the Office of the Michigan Department of Public Health, Bureau of Environmental and Occupational Health, Division of Water Supply, 3423 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, P.O. Box 30195, Lansing, Michigan 48909. R325-1611. Application of rules to existing water supplies. Rule 111. 1. When extensive changes or repairs are made to a water supply system that was constructed before the effective date of these amendatory rules, the changes or repairs shall be in compliance with the provision of these rules unless a deviation is issued pursuant to the provisions of R325.1613. Extensive changes include replacing the entire casing, removing a casing from the ground, or changing aquifers. 2. Upgrading a water supply system to conform with these rules is not required when minor repairs to the system occur, such as any of the following. A. Replacing a telescoped well screen. B. Changing screen elevation. C. Deepening or plugging back a bedrock well. D. Installing a liner pipe. E. Replacing a pump controls, pump drop pipe, or pressure tank. And F. Chemical treatment of the well or well disinfection. R325.1612. Compliance with regulations and local codes. Rule 112. A person who installs a well, pump, or pumping equipment shall comply with applicable laws, regulations, ordinances, and codes, including all of the following. A. Act number 399 of the Public Acts of 1976, as amended, being sections 325.1001, X sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, Safe Drinking Water Act. B. Act number 266 of the Public Acts of 1929, as amended, being sections 338 to 901 at sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, State Plumbing Code. C. Act number 154 of the Public Acts of 1974, as amended, being sections 408.1001 at sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, Occupational Safety and Health Act. D. Act number 53 of the Public Acts of 1974, as amended, being sections 460.701 at sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, Utility Damage Prevention Act. E. Act number 217 of the Public Acts of 1956, as amended, being sections 460.701 of the Michigan Compiled Laws, Utility Damage Prevention Act. Act number 217 of the Public Acts of 1956, as amended, being sections 338.81 et sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, Electrical Administrative Act. F. Act number 331 of the Public Acts of 1976, as amended, being sections 445.901 et sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, Consumer Protection Act. G. Any local code of a municipality which regulates the installation of a well, pump, or pumping equipment and which is not less restrictive than these rules. If a local board of health, in the discharge of its duties to protect the public health, deems it necessary to establish requirements that are more stringent than these rules, it shall do so and file a record of the requirements with the director. Well drilling contractors who drill wells in the counties that are affected by the more stringent requirements shall be notified in writing by the department or local health department not less than 5 days before the effective date of the modified requirements. R 325.1613 Deviations from minimum standards. Rule 113.1 A health officer, in the discharge of his or her duty to protect the public health, may issue a deviation from the provisions of specific rules as provided for in this rule if the spirit and intent of these rules are observed and the public health, safety, and welfare are assured. Rules or parts of rules, specific minimum standards, requirements, and conditions for which deviations may be prevented are as follows. A. The provisions of R 325.1611(1) may be deviated from to permit a water service line to remain in a condition that is not in compliance with the provisions of these rules when extensive changes or repairs to a water supply system are made if the water service line is located beneath a permanent structure or pavement. B. The provisions of R 325.1622 may be deviated from as follows. I. A well may be located closer than the specified minimum distance to a potential or known source of contamination if the dimensions of the property on which the well is to be located do not permit compliance with the specified minimum distances and if any of the following conditions exist. A. Hydrogeologic data indicate that the direction of groundwater flow at the contamination source is away from the well. B. The depth of the well and depth of grouting of the casing that is specified by the health officer as a condition of the deviation will provide equivalent protection of groundwater quality and the public health. C. The well is being constructed to replace an existing water supply well that is located on a site where habitable structure exists. 2. A well may be required to be located more than the specified minimum distance from a potential or known source of contamination if the minimum specified distance will not protect groundwater quality or the public health due to local groundwater conditions, geology, or other factors. 3. A well may be located closer than the specified minimum distance, but not closer than 10 feet. To a pressurized sewer that meets all of the following requirements. A. The sewer pipe and joints have been pressure tested after installation to not less than 100 pounds per square inch and have been determined to be watertight. B. The sewer pipe and joints meet or exceed the standards of ASTM specification D 1785-91 or D 2241-89. The specifications are adopted by reference in R 325.1610. C. The sewer has a wall thickness that is equivalent to or thicker than Schedule 40 or SCR 21. 4. A health officer may require a study of the hydrogeological conditions of a site to support a deviation issued pursuant to the provisions of this sub-rule. C. The provisions of R 325.1624(1)(a) may be deviated from to permit a well to be located closer than 3 feet to a building, pump room, or any projection thereof if all of the following conditions exist. 1. The well is replacing an abandoned well. 2. The dimensions and features of the property on which the well is to be constructed do not permit location of the well to be in compliance with the specified minimum distance. 3. Access for maintenance of the well is provided. D. The provisions of R 325.1632, 3, may be deviated from to permit a well casing to extend less than 25 feet below the ground surface if the well will not be used to supply water to habitable structures or for human consumption and if both of the following conditions exist. 1. The well and water supply system are clearly and permanently identified as not being suitable for human consumption or body contact. 2. The well and water supply system are separated from any potable water supply system on the premises. E. The provisions of R 325.1632.3 may be deviated from to permit a well casing to extend less than 25 feet below the ground surface if there is reason to believe that potable water of suitable quantity does not exist at a reasonable depth of more than 25 feet, and if either of the following conditions exist. 1. The distance between a well and a potential or known source of contamination is increased pursuant to the provisions of subdivision B2 of this rule. 2. A confining layer is present above the aquifer that will be used by the shallow well. F. The provisions of R 325.1634A1 may be deviated from to permit the length of casing to be grouted for rotary bored or augered wells to be decreased if the well is more than 100 feet deep and if a confining layer is not penetrated. G. The provisions of R 325.1637 may be deviated from to require that a well casing extend more than 25 feet below the ground surface if there is reason to believe that non-potable water is or may be present in the upper bedrock. H. The provisions of R 325.1638.2 may be deviated from to permit flowing well discharge if the well owner or the well owner's representative demonstrates any of the following. 1. Control of the flow is not practical. 2. Control of the flow will likely result in the production of sand or turbidity in the water. And 3. The discharge is for a beneficial use. 3. Deviations from the rules listed in Subrule 2 of this rule shall be made in writing by a health officer and shall state the reasons for each deviation. A health officer may require special well construction features as a condition for the issuance of a deviation and may require well construction features that are more stringent than these rules when deemed necessary to protect the groundwater quality or the public health. Reasons for the issuance of a deviation or special well construction features as a condition for the issuance of a deviation by a health officer shall be based upon any of the following factors. A. Site hydrogeology. B. Site topography. C. Site dimensions. D. Soil characteristics. E. Depth of well. F. Type of well. G. Well pumping rate. H. Well drilling method. I. Distance of contamination sources. J. Presence of groundwater contamination. And K. Other similar factors. R 325.1621. Location and construction of wells generally. Rule 121. 1. All of the following provisions apply to well location. A. A well shall be located with due consideration of all of the following. 1. Lot size. 2. Hydrogeology. 3. Site topography. 4. Soil characteristics. 5. Other factors that are necessary to implement the provisions of these rules. B. A well shall be located so that the well and its surrounding area can be kept in a sanitary condition. C. A well shall be located so that access to the well for maintenance is provided. D. A well shall be located so that damage and personal injury do not result from contact with utilities during the construction or service of the well. 2. A well shall be adequate in size, design, and development for the intended use, giving due consideration to local groundwater conditions. 3. All of the following provisions apply to well construction. A. A well shall be constructed to maintain existing natural protection against the contamination of aquifers. B. A well shall be constructed to exclude all known sources of contamination from the well. And C, a well shall be constructed, equipped, and operated to prevent unnecessary discharge from flowing wells. R325.1622. Wells, distances from contamination sources. Rule 122.1. A well that furnishes water for any beneficial use shall be located where it is not subject to contamination. Groundwater contaminant movement is influenced by the type of contaminant, groundwater flow direction and velocity, and other hydrogeologic, and geochemical factors. If available, hydrogeologic data shall be used to select well location. Where possible, a well shall be located up gradient of a potential or known source of contamination. A well shall be located the maximum practical distance from a potential or known source of contamination. The minimal horizontal distances shall be maintained when locating a well. 800 feet from either of the following. 1. The active work area of a landfill as defined in R299.4101. 2. Land surface application of septic waste as defined by Section 2 of Act No. 181 of the Public Acts of 1986, being Section 325.312 of the Michigan Compiled Laws. B. 300 feet from any of the following. 1. Land application or subsurface injection of effluent or digested sludge from a municipal wastewater treatment facility. 2. Oil and gas wells. 3. Petroleum product processing or storage facilities. 4. Underground or above grade storage tank systems of not less than 1,100 gallons, which are regulated under Act No. 423 of the Public Acts of 1984, as amended, being Section 299.701 ex sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws when secondary containment as defined by Act No. 423 of the Public Acts of 1984 as amended is not provided. Okay, we're going to finish with page 16. C. 150 feet from a preparation or storage area for fertilizers, agricultural chemicals, or other chemicals that might contaminate the soil or groundwater. D. 50 feet from any of the following. 1. A buried sewer other than a sewer is specified in subdivision G of this subrule. 2. A septic tank. 3. A subsurface disposal field. 4. A dry well. 5. A sewage pump chamber. 6. A pressurized sewer. 7. A grease trap. 8. A seepage pit. 9. A cesspool. 10. An animal or poultry yard. 11. An outhouse. And 12. Any other wastewater handling or disposal unit or site of liquid waste draining into the soil. E. 50 feet from underground or above grade storage tank systems which have a capacity of not less than 1,100 gallons, which are regulated pursuant to the provisions of Act No. 423 of the Public Acts of 1984, as amended, being Sections 299.701 et sequence of the Michigan Compiled Laws, and which have secondary containment as defined in Act No. 423 of the Public Acts of 1984 as amended. F. 50 feet from underground or above grade storage tank systems which have a capacity of less than 1,100 gallons and which store motor or heating fuels for non-commercial purposes or consumptive use on the premises where the fuel is stored. G. 10 feet from any of the following. 1. A buried gravity flow sewer that is constructed of surface weight or heavier ductile iron pipe with watertight joints, Schedule 40 PVC plastic with watertight joints or other material, and joints that are approved in writing by the director. 2. A sump, pit, or unfilled space that is below the ground surface except for a crawl space. 3. A surface water body such as a lake, pond, river, or stream. 2. The health officer who is responsible for enforcement of this rule may deviate from the minimum isolation distances in this rule pursuant to the provisions of R 325.1613, either increasing or decreasing the minimum isolation distances for individual well installations. 3. A well that serves a public water supply as defined pursuant to the provisions of Act No. 399 of the Public Acts of 1976, as amended, being Section 325.1001 at sequence of the Michigan compiled laws, shall be isolated from contamination sources in accordance with requirements specified in R 325.10101 at sequence. 4. A well owner shall be responsible for maintaining the isolation distances that are specified in the provisions of R 325.1622 and R 325.1624 for property that is owned by the well owner.